Hi, and welcome to this What's New in Survey123 presentation. My name is Ismael Chivite, and I am the Survey123 product manager. Over the next 60 minutes, I want to go over some of the most important features that we have released since we last met at last year's Esri Developer Summit. Survey123 is designed to help you deploy location-aware smart forms for your organization. With Survey123, you can build intuitive user experiences to accelerate data capture. Survey123 Smart Forms also support sophisticated data validation rules, so you can ensure that the data that gets sent to your org is ready to support data-driven decision-making. Survey123 is made out of different components, such as powerful smart form design tools, desktop, web, and mobile form-centric applications to submit data, and also form-centric data visualization and analysis tools. A lot has happened since we last met at the Esri Dev Summit last year. As you can see, we had a series of updates, all synchronized across all the different platforms. I have split the content of this presentation into 4 main areas. What's new in the Survey123 website and web app, which we will touch first. Then we will jump into Connect and the Field app, Webhooks and report services, and finally, I will give you an update on our Survey123 for Developers story. Survey123 Web Designer is a great way to get started building smart forms. Designer is a web-based tool. It helps you visually design your own smart forms, as you can see in the animation. We are seeing a great uptake of people building smart forms this way. Here is an example from Bentonville 311. This website aggregates many web forms built on Web Designer. As you can see here, citizens can go into the website and choose a particular issue to report. This opens a Survey123 web form, which you can use to quickly, report issues to the city. So, aware that people are using Web Designer quite a bit, we have been enhancing this application over the past few months. As an example, you can now logically organize questions in your survey using groups and pages, all from within Designer. As you can see in this example on the right side, the form is broken up into different pages, and users can navigate page to page to complete all the information. This is great when you are building long forms, but even for small forms can be actually quite handy. The way this works in Designer is pretty simple. Just like everything else in Designer, you drag and drop the pages and the groups, and then questions on top of that. The other thing we added is this notion of choice grids. Choice grids are a new type of question in Designer, and it helps you compact collections of multiple choice questions within a grid. This reduces the total amount of space you need in your form, presenting the information, the questions, in a more intuitive way, and helping you accelerate data capture. These grids that you can build in Designer, you can publish as smart forms that can be leveraged from both the web as well as the field applications in Survey123. Another interesting feature is being able to embed your surveys within websites. You can see here on the screen, we have the City of Redlands website and then an embedded survey right in there. This is actually quite easy to do. All you need to do is basically go into the Collaborate tab and then look for the Embed in Website link. This will present you with some options to decide what are the embed options. Do you want to show the survey footer, the survey theme, the survey header? And this will basically change that code snippet, which you can copy and take into your own website. The next one is this notion of survey open, survey closed. So think about the following. What do you do when a web survey is closed? You have captured all the data you need. Maybe you have the survey in your website. What do you do when you don't want more data? Do you delete the survey so people cannot submit more responses? Do you restrict the sharing? Like you don't share it with everyone anymore? Do you leave the survey as is and then ignore any data that people submit? Well, none of these approaches is a good one. I mean, if you do that, any of these things, people are going to get a 404 response, or maybe the login dialog will pop, or they will get frustrated because they submit data and you don't do anything about it. So what you can do now is to configure a survey closed dialog, like the one you can see here. Okay, this is a dialog that will be shown once you have said my survey is closed. So the way this works is you go into collaborate again, and then you scroll down and you will see a new option called survey status. And you can say whether the survey is closed, or you can even define a time window when the survey will be open. And then you can configure with images and new text the dialog that will be presented to users. Pretty neat concept. If you look more closely into the Collaborate tab, you'll find that we have actually a new option to help you control how many submissions can be made from a particular web form. By default, we allow multiple submissions. You can submit as many records as you want, but optionally, you can enable this option, only one submission per submitter. Technically, what we do is to use cookies. The cookies reflect if you have submitted already data. So I want to make this clear because obviously if the user is in incognito mode, or if the cookies are cleaned, or if you go to a different web browser, this is really not going to work. But for the most obvious cases, this can be a starting point for you to control and avoid duplications in your data. The next feature I want to describe is the web app URL query parameters. This is very useful when you want to launch a web form and auto-populate a question or two questions on load. You can also use query parameters to hide and show the theme, or hide the title, even hide specific questions within your web survey, all through query parameters. Here you can see an example. We have the URL of Survey123 followed by the item ID of the web form you want to launch, and then the query parameters. First, we are passing the value Fernando to the inspector question and the value Oak to the tree type question. In the second example, we use the mode parameter to open a survey in view-only mode, retrieving information from a particular feature. You can see that we are using the global ID parameter to specify which feature we want to display in view-only mode. I'll give you a quick demonstration of this. Here I have a tree health survey web form, and what I want to do is to pre-populate these questions submitted by. So for that, I'm going to add query parameters after the web form URL. Question mark to start, and then I'm going to say in the field colon, now I need to specify the field. So I cannot go by the label, I have to go by the name. So I'm going to come here and have a look at my schema and see submitted by, that's the name. So I'm going to copy that and then insert this in here and say equal, and then say Peter Smith. And there you go. Now we have Peter Smith automatically populated in there. So this is how you can add these query parameters. Now, obviously, you don't want to do this manually. You want to programmatically create these links or include these links in emails and other places in websites to launch the surveys exactly like you want them. I want to demonstrate a practical application of query parameters in web forms. Here you can see I have a dashboard, and the dashboard has an embedded web form on the right panel. Every time I click or select a feature, the survey gets populated with the information from that feature. And this is all done through query parameters. The action in this element passes over the global ID of the feature into my web form and opens the web form in edit mode. So the basic concept here is that you can come now here, look at all the data, and use the web form to maybe reject this particular request. We are editing the record in the database from the web form in the dashboard. If you are already familiar with query parameters, you may have noticed that I have emphasized the use of the global ID as the means to get records into your web form. But we have been using Object ID for a while. This is changing. This blog post in GeoNet articulates, what is actually going to happen. So moving on, starting on April the 2nd, we are going to stop using Object IDs and move over to global IDs. The blog post describes how you can make this change, how is this going to affect you, and why we are making this change. I just want to point it out. Don't use Object IDs moving on, use global IDs. And since we are talking about the next release, what is coming up soon, I want to highlight two new question types that are coming into Designer. The first one is the map question, which will replace the geopoint question. And our intent here is to let you define different drawing tools within the map question for points, lines, or polygons. The other question is the new ranking question. And this one allows you to present users with a list of choices and then let them order these choices. Let's have a look at both questions. This is the map question configured to draw polygons. And here is the ranking question. So you can let users express a preference on that list easily on the web form. Again, this coming on April the 2nd. Progressing with our agenda, we are going to talk next about what's new in Connect and the Field app. Survey123 Connect is like Designer, a tool that is going to help you create your own smart forms. But unlike Designer, it doesn't run on a web browser. Connect is actually a desktop tool that you download into your Windows or macOS machine. Unlike Designer, where you drag and drop, in Connect, you are going to use the XLS form specification, which is a standard to define the look and feel and behavior of surveys in spreadsheets. Connect can preview your own surveys and let you design them using your spreadsheet editor. Any change you make in your XLS form document is immediately previewed in Connect, and when you are ready, you can publish it. Connect is the tool of choice for designing smart forms for many organizations that need full control over their designs, or for organizations that need to create massively large smart forms. To get started with the XLS form specification, I encourage you to have a look at the different YouTube video tutorials that we have published. You should know that in the past few months, we have added new entries into this list. There is so much we have added into Connect and the Field app recently. Let's have a look at some of the most important features. Before, we described all the work in Designer with pages and groups. This work is actually even more relevant in Connect, because in Connect you often build very long surveys, which makes the use of groups and pages even more appealing. Also, in Connect and the Field app, you'll notice that we added a small option at the bottom. You can push there and then get a dialog to help you easily navigate through the different pages in your form. Another interesting option relates to the ability of arranging questions side by side, like in here, city and state. In this other example, we are combining rows where we have just one question, or three, or two but arranged differently. This is all done through the grid layouts. Let's have a closer look at pages and grid layouts with this survey. You can see here I have pages, my dialog to navigate. We also are using grid layouts to arrange questions side by side. So what this really looks like in XLS form. Let's start by looking at the settings spreadsheet, because in settings, in the style column, we specify whether the form is going to be using pages and grid layouts. And you can see the syntax here. Note that we have the pages and thin grid styles. You can use them in isolation or in combination. In this case, I wanted a smart form with pages and grid layouts, so I added them both. Look at the space that I added to separate them. Next, the questions in my survey are arranged in groups. Why? Because each of these groups is going to become its own page. So I have a group, and then in appearance, I have field list. This is telling Survey123, this group is actually a page. Then we have this W8, W5 type of syntax. So this is really defining the number of columns on which I want to arrange different questions. Those are the grid layouts. So for this particular group, I want 8 columns. The first question, in this case a note, is going to take 8 columns. That is the full row. And the second is the same. But look at the third. The time question is only going to take 5 columns. That leaves 3 columns empty. Well, not really, because the next question is going to take them. So here I'm basically saying arrange these 2 questions side by side and give a slightly more room to the first than to the second. Note also that multiple appearances can be combined, like in this case, where we are taking the full row for one text question, but we are also making that text question multi-line. If you scroll down through the full design, you will see that, I have multiple pages, multiple grid layouts. Some of them use 8 columns, others can use fewer. That's really your choice. If you want to learn more about this, GeoNet and the help. One of the things I want to highlight is that grid theme, the grid layouts, are only supported in the field app. In web forms, we still don't support that particular arrangement of questions. That will be coming in the future, but for now, it's field app only. The next feature I want to highlight is this notion of pictorial lists. When we work with lists, we often think of them as drop-downs or Likert type of lists. Pictorial lists allow you to represent lists of values through diagrams and images, like you can see in the animation. This can make your smart forms much more intuitive for people to complete. For example, in this case, we are selecting multiple states or selecting a component of a heart, or maybe selecting within a risk matrix the exact assessment that we did. Much more intuitive to work with these diagrams and images than with lists. This is not to say that lists in the traditional, formats are not useful. They are, but in some cases, diagrams are actually better. These lists are represented as images thanks to SVG files. And these SVG files support single selections and multiple selections. That is, you can use them for checklists if you want. Back into GeoNet, Brett wrote a fantastic blog post describing step by step how you can build your own SVG images and put them into Connect so you can leverage them within your smart forms. This is again another feature that at the moment is only supported on the field app, not on the web form. So when you are authoring these forms, just keep that in mind, right? You are targeting applications of the field app. It's time to talk again about polygons and lines. We sort of introduced this in the web designer section, and of course they are supported also in Connect now. But what I want to highlight here is that using the new GeoShape and GeoTrace XLS form, questions comes with the bonus of expressions that you can write to do lots of things with these new geometries. I think one of the best ways to learn how to use these new questions is to use the Connect sample. Let's have a look at it. From Connect, go to New Survey, select a sample, and then let's look for the GeoTrace and GeoShape sample. Okay, so here's the XLS form, and here's the actual sample. So here you can see how to work with the geotrace question. It's just a type of question. There is not a lot of secret. Now you can see here the different tools we have. This is the hand drawing type of functionality. And this is a calculation that gets the line length. So if we open here the XLS form, you'll see I simply have a geotrace question. And then we have a calculation which gets the line and applies the distance function, and then applies also a factor to translate that into meters. At the very end here, if I can scroll, we have the body Esri style, and its method is sketch, and the line color is actually defined as well. So you can play with this. For example, I can say, no, actually, I don't want the method sketch. I want the method vertex, and I want this line to be blue. Then you save this, and let's go back into Connect, and let's see what that looks like. So now my geotrace question looks the same apparently, except that if I get in, now I don't have the free hand drawing tool. Instead, I have the vertex by vertex tool. So I'm going to select it and then start adding vertices here. See that? And then I can also switch to panning and back to vertex and keep adding records. Yeah, you have the undo, you have the option to check, you can later on edit the geometries, all of that cool stuff. Let's go back into the form, and similar options can be applied to the geoshape, which is for polygons, except that of course you can calculate the perimeter as well as the area. One more here, I want to highlight this one. This shows how you can create geometries like lines and polygons dynamically. So if you look carefully here, I have a repeat, and this repeat contains a geopoint question. And then underneath, I have a line geotrace question and a polygon geoshape question. There are no geometries here because I don't have enough vertices. So let's add a few. I'm going to add one new vertex right here in the intersection of the creek and the New York Street. One. I'm going to now click on plus to add a second vertex, and then I'm going to define that geometry. So the line is going to be at the end of the street near this big building here. Now I have two vertices, so we have a green line right there, 700 feet. And now the polygon is not complete, so I'm going to add yet another vertex, and the vertex will go at the post office. So 3 vertices, my line, and my polygon with its area. I wanted to go through all of that for a couple of reasons. One, the samples that come with Connect are a great way to learn more about these new features. And second, I know the example was actually very simple and generic, but it gives you an idea of the type of things that you could do within your smart form to trigger calculations and even data validation constraints live while people are capturing data. It truly makes it very, very powerful. And all of these expressions that you saw with geotrace and geoshape and techniques, they work both in the field app as well as in the web application. Now, if you want to learn more, I will say it once more, GeoNet. In GeoNet, we have blog posts, we have discussion forums, and we will be happy to help you out with more information. This is a small animation. It shows more things that you can do with polygons. In this case, if you look at the mobile phone here, we are using a polygon layer not to create new features, but rather to present a list of, in this case, buildings to the user. And the list is shown, you can map it, and then you can use this map or the list to select a particular building and then bring all the information associated so you can do an inspection. So it's kind of a nice workflow where you don't use the polygons to create new records. You don't use the polygons to change them. They are just a visual representation that helps people find the asset, open it to bring the smart form, do some work, and then submit the changes to the actual GIS feature. This is all done with the GeoShape question and in combination with the inbox. Switching gears completely, here is another new feature that we added, photo watermarks. Here the idea is that when you take a photo with Survey123, with the Survey123 mobile application, you can write XLS form expressions within Connect to extract certain values from your survey, such as, say, the job ID or the current date and time, and you can insert this information, you can watermark your photos with that information. And you can control, well, the position, the color, the size of the watermarks. You can even embed images in these watermarks. And this is all done again through XLS forms in Connect. You can bring this valuable information into the photo. So when you create reports or when the data gets exported, or in case people somehow isolate the photo from the remaining of the map or GIS features, all of this information is carried along with your photo. I think asset inspections, the documentation of code violations, damage assessments. There are many workflows where this can be tremendously valuable. To learn how to create these watermarks, again, GeoNet and the help has step-by-step instructions, syntax, and discussions where you can learn more. This is, again, a feature only for the mobile app. This photo watermarking capability is not available in the web application. This is about the most popular request we have had for a long time in the Survey123 field app. It's the idea of, if the survey changes on the server, how do I communicate to users in the field that that particular survey needs to be updated? So this is now built in, or it will be built in our April 2020 release. When you try to open that survey, we will check and then we will let you know if it actually needs to be updated. So you are going to get that message coming up in a second. There you go, update survey, and you can optionally update that survey. So this will be available very soon, in just a couple of weeks, April the 2nd, the 3.9 release of Survey will have this. So it's not what's new, it's what's coming, but it's so close that I couldn't resist having this note in this presentation. In the next section, I'm going to move beyond data collection with the mobile app and the web application, and I'm going to touch on what's new in Survey123 report services and webhooks. Report services were released some time ago. I'm sure many of you are familiar with them, but just in case, the idea here is to allow you to take all the information you capture with Survey123 and get it out of ArcGIS following a high quality printable document specification that you define. So you can configure your own report templates using Microsoft Word. You can decide where to put certain data from your records, where to add maps, photos, signatures, etc. And because these templates are authored in Microsoft Word, you really have a lot of control over colors, fonts, and positioning of elements. This is what our report template looks like, raw. You can see that we have some placeholders in here, and these are actually referencing existing fields in your data. In this case, we are pulling the creation date value from our record, and we are formatting that value according to this string, the month, day, year, and then the hour, minutes, etc. In this case, we are simply extracting information from a text field of Ender present. In this one, we are rendering a map. So the GPS location is actually the question in the survey with the geopoint. And then we are saying, look, I want to use a default web map. You could include here an item ID for your own web map. And then I'm specifying the scale at which I want the map to be rendered and the exact size of the map I want to include in here. This is how we extract a signature, a photo, the type of violation, etc. Once you create these templates and upload them into ArcGIS, you can create reports. And so this is the website where we are selecting a particular row in the survey and triggering a report to generate, in this case, an output, which happens to be a Word document. So this is basically the idea of Survey123 reports. Now, we have been improving this report quite a bit over the past few releases. One of the things we did was to add support for automation and PDF outputs. And many of you were asking, well, it's nice to create outputs in Word format, but can I create PDFs? Check, you have that already. And also this option, as you can see here, this is a screenshot that shows the new capability of the Survey123 Integromat module to create feature reports in an automated way. So we are going to have a look at this right away. Actually, not quite, because I haven't described what Webhooks and Integromat are. So let's do that first. We have added support in Survey123 for workflow automation using webhooks. And our idea here is to help you have data from Survey123 flow into third-party systems, technologies within your organization. The idea is to have Survey123 be a player within larger business workflows that involve different technologies. So today, with webhooks and Survey123, you can integrate with hundreds of apps and services. Think Office 365 with Microsoft Excel, payment services like PayPal, databases like Oracle and SQL Server, social media, and many others. With webhooks, you can make these integrations happen without writing code, completely out of the box and instantly. This is how webhooks run under the covers. So you have your Survey123 app. This could be the web app or the field app. It doesn't matter. You have your survey. And as usual, you submit data from it. You complete your form and then data gets sent into ArcGIS. This could be enterprise. This could be online. If you have a webhook configured, once we get a response from ArcGIS into the application, we send a webhook call as you have defined. And we send through the webhook all the payload of your feature into a third-party system, the receiving end of the webhook. And this system can do things with your data. You could be sending an email to someone, you could be loading data into a SQL Server database, altering a customer entry within Salesforce, etc. Now, the magic here really happens at this level. What is this? Well, there are different technologies or solutions out there that are specifically designed to work with webhooks, such as those from Survey123. And specifically, Integromat and Power Automate are the most commonly used by Survey123 users. Within these systems, you can use out-of-the-box connectors to put together entire workflows that automate tasks. This is a look at Integromat, is one of the different providers we have, where you can see how our Survey123 connector can be added, connected to your own survey so you can watch for data coming in out of that survey. And then configuring options with connectors and routers and other tools, you can visually create business workflows. You can automate tasks. So in this case, we are watching data from a survey, and then we are doing two things through the router. One, we are sending an email to a person based on a filter, and we are also adding information into a Excel spreadsheet to sort of back up the data or create a registry of that data outside of ArcGIS. Now that you have some context, I will show you how to create a new scenario in Integromat using these new features we added into Survey123 to automate reports. So in my case, I'm going to bring the Survey123 connector into my workflow, and you can see here that there are a gazillion other connectors, right? Let's get Survey for now and then continue. Okay, so you can see it here. We can add more later. So to start my survey, or my workflow, I should say, I'm going to choose the Survey123 connector and use the watch survey. Not much new here. You are probably already familiar with this. Next, I'm going to connect to my ArcGIS Online organization. This could also be your ArcGIS Enterprise organization. And then I'm going to look at the survey that I want to watch. So this will be our water violation survey. This is basically registering a new webhook with the survey. It's that easy. You don't have to really think much about this. It's all visual. And now that we have this, every time a record is added through this form, I want to create a report and email it to someone. So I'm going to say add another module. And in this case, I'm going to again select survey, but I'm going to choose the create feature report action. And this is new. So when you come here, you can select what is the actual survey that you want to use. It's probably this connection here. There you go. So you are going to select again the water violation survey. This is going to display all the templates that have been associated with this particular survey in advance. I have a handful. I'm going to select this one, the blue template. And then this is defining what is the object ID from which you want to create a report, which in this case is the actual output from the Survey123 watch survey. In other words, whatever survey was created, that one I want to create a report from. And now, again, new was the output format. So we have now PDF. This is going to create a PDF file. So now I can go and use other Integromat modules like HTTP, in this case, to get a file. So I'm going to download this PDF file. So I'm going to look at the output of my create report module. You see here result files, URL, I get that. And now I have the file. And next I could actually use other tools like Outlook. This will be Office email, there you go. And then create a new message. So I'm going to select create and send a message. Connect, and here you can select a subject. So the subject will be new violation reported. The body content could include information such as submitted by, and then you can pick from your watch survey module, say, for example, the full name of the user that is submitting this record. I won't get into much detail here, because I want to focus on this one at the end, the attachments. So I'm going to add an attachment to my email, and I'm going to get the attachment from the output of my HTTP get a file module, which is this guy. So now that we have this ready, we can actually try it out. So let's first save this. Oh, you know what? I think I forgot the most important thing, which is the recipient. So let's do, this could be a variable, but I'm going to just fix it to my email address, save it. Now I put my workflow in listening mode just to see if things work. And then I open my form and work with it. So let's submit some data in here. I'm going to set my location, say, right there, or maybe not, maybe right here. Cool. And now I'm going to set the type of location, take a photo of the ECU, some notes, and say offender is present. No, I'm not present. And now Integromat is running. And as soon as the record gets submitted, we immediately get that event. We start creating the report. Next, we download the file and we send the email. So this is the email I just received, submitted by, it's empty because I was not logged in when submitting the data, which makes sense. And now this is the report. And the report is in PDF format, as you can see here at the top, and it includes my logo, my map, the photo, and the whole thing. Very nice. Our next topic is what's new in Survey123 for developers. And for this one, I want to start with the new Survey123 web app JavaScript API. This is an API to help web developers embed, style, and interact with Survey123 web forms within your own web application. You can see here a snippet of code showing the simplest possible integration. You have your own HTML page, you load the library, you create a Survey123 web form object, which loads your own item ID, your own web form, and voila, you have a web form within your web page. Now, most importantly, within the JavaScript code, you can interact with your web form. You can subscribe to events such as on form load, on value changed, etc. And you can do very nice things. So let's have a look at a recent blog post that we shared in GeoNet as usual, so you can get more details on this. Okay, so we are now in GeoNet. We are looking at the blog post, and we are going to actually have a look at this example. Let's go for it. This is a web application that was developed by the Applications Prototype Lab. And the web app initially only shows one button. This button helps you test your download speed. Let's click it. Once the test is performed, we get a value, which you can see here. And then this value is passed into a web form, which is dynamically being added into the website. You can see that it matches, right? So we are automatically populating this value from the web app into the web form, so the user can, complete the questionnaire here, submit the location from which the internet speed test has been done, and then sort of, submit the data. So this shows the, basic example integration, illustrating how the JavaScript API lets you embed and interact with your own web forms. From a practical perspective, this blog post describes how you can, build your own forms, your own web applications, how to create a client ID, how to write the code, what are the properties and operations in the web form attributes that you can access, etc. And of course, at the very bottom, you have the Hello World example and actually the complete source code of this web application that I just demonstrated. So I guess, what are you waiting for? Give it a shot. Custom JavaScript functions, I want to bring this up because while they are not officially supported just yet, they are about to. And second, because you can actually start using this today. It's not like you need to use the beta software to take advantage of this. In fact, we brought support for custom JavaScript functions as far as 3.0, if my memory serves. And this is a powerful concept. You can bring your own custom JavaScript functions into your XLS forms. You do this by combining the pull data function with your JavaScript code. You can use these to extend the functionality of your forms to create custom data validation rules, to calculate values, to control the visibility of questions, all through your JavaScript code. Let's have a look. This form in Survey123 Connect is using a custom JavaScript function to automatically calculate the current temperature at a given location and the current weather. This is by using JavaScript code that hits the Open Weather Map API. So let's have a quick test at this. Let's move to Palm Springs. So I move to Palm Springs, I check the location, and voila, it's raining 51 degrees. Let's go to Madrid in Spain. There you go. Palm, check. It's clear, 51 degrees Fahrenheit. How is this possible? How can my survey invoke the Open Weather Map website to get this information in? Well, let's have a look, first of all, at the XLS file. In my XLS file, I have a geopoint question, and then I have my current temperature, current weather. These two questions are being calculated. So if I look at the calculation column, we are basically calling pull data to extract from a JSON string a particular attribute, main temperature. And then we are applying some conversion factors. The same with the weather. You look at this, pull data at JSON, that is given a JSON string, extract the weather main attribute out of that JSON string. So the JSON string is actually this guy here. And this, again, is calculated by using the pull data at JavaScript. And that is the crux of the problem here. So we say pull data at JavaScript. This is the JavaScript file that contains my code. This is the actual function I want to invoke. And anything else are parameters. In this case, I want to pass the location where I want the weather, and then the API key for the Open Weather API. So I hope you don't steal that API from me. If I want to look at the files, you click here on files, and in here, we already have the media folder. You need to create a new folder called extensions. And inside that is all lowercase extensions. You can add your own JavaScript function. So if I open this is going to include the getWeather function that I was calling from my XLS form calculation. You see, so I basically get the location and I pass that into the openweathermap.org. This is their own API. I pass my key, I pass the location, and then what I send back is the response from the Open Weather Map website. And that response is actually a JSON string, which you can see here. And this is the JSON string that I am parsing with the pull data at JSON instructions that I just demonstrated. So this is just an example. In reality, you can use these JavaScript functions for so many things. You can look at information within repeats. You can apply complex formulas to data from your form. I mean, the sky is the limit. Actually, no, the sky is not the limit. The limit is you can use JavaScript, but within certain scope. You are not running within a web browser. You are running within a Survey123 form, like in the mobile application. So you cannot use frameworks like, Dojo and jQuery and all of that stuff. You have to use like pure ECMA JavaScript syntax here. And that's pretty much about it. I mean, you cannot access files on disk and the usual limitations with JavaScript. But other than that, you can do quite a few things with this. If you want to learn more about JavaScript functions in pull data, I encourage you to check on the early adopter program to understand better how to use them and also when exactly we're going to have them supported in the software, both in the mobile app as well as in the web form. And with this, we have kind of touched on a lot of things already. I hope you got some ideas about what has been added lately to Survey123. I just want to spend a couple of minutes touching on some high-level roadmap ideas here. Everything is subject to change in this roadmap, but you kind of see where we are we are going. So for the first half of the year, much of what I discussed here has been touched and done already. Looking at the July timeframe around the users conference this year, we want to finalize our work with the website and REST API on-premises setup for Windows. We also want to officially support the use of web maps, mobile map packages, and vector tile packages. This is actually already in the software, but the official release will come later in the year. And then we are adding support or improving our accessibility support in the Survey123 web application for the UC. We are working on a new extensibility framework for the Survey123 mobile app. So you will be able to write your own add-ins. So more on this later on. We know many of you want to configure the Microsoft Automate module with Enterprise, with ArcGIS Enterprise. This is not possible at the moment, but we are working with Microsoft to document the process by UC. And then the stuff we saw with custom JavaScript functions, it will be available around UC as well. Although, as I said, in the mobile app, you can already use it. Later on, towards the end of the year, we want to transition from a tech preview of the extensibility framework to the official release of the extensibility framework. And then we will add enhancements to Designer so you can create surveys from templates. We want to improve the performance of lists within the field app and look also at the idea of building dynamic lists or populating lists dynamically from, say, feature services, for example, and start support for image attachments in the inbox, reading, to some extent, even updating attachments within the inbox. Again, everything subject to change, but shows direction. On behalf of the entire Survey123 team, I hope that this session was informative. I hope you like what we have done with Survey in the last year and what we have on the roadmap. Please join us, join the conversation in GeoNet and also the Early Adopter program. We are always listening for your feedback and input, and we want to do this journey together with you. So help us get Survey where you really want it to be. Thank you very much. Bye.